Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the McGonagall Boxing Podcast. Let's get straight down to it, shall we? So obviously the big news, the breaking news, post-fight Dillian Whyte, Povetkin, which ended obviously, as we all know, in a shocking KO loss for Dillian Whyte round 5, is Dillian Whyte has ordered and he looks like he's getting an immediate rematch. So we're going to break this down and see whether it's a good or bad move for Dillian Whyte. But first of all, I've deliberately left it a few weeks post-fight to talk about Dillian Whyte's shocking loss, in the fact that it was a shocking KO loss, not that it was a shocking loss as in performance-wise, because we all know Povetkin is dangerous. Former Olympic gold medalist, former world champion, numerous world title challenger. He's dangerous, even at 40. And he's knocked out a lot of credible fighters. Manuel Charr, Carlos Takam, cleaned out David Price, gave Joshua all kinds of problems for 7 rounds. So we knew he was class, we knew he was dangerous, but we thought at 40 it wasn't going to be his night. Now, I don't take any credit in saying I was very nearly right. I said Whyte would clean Povetkin's clock around 4, stop him. He was very close to doing that in round 4. However, what I didn't mention, and a lot of pundits didn't mention, is the fact that Povetkin is more dangerous when he gets hurt. That's a fact. If you look at all his fights, if you look at the even the Michael Hunter fight lately, which I think was his last fight, nearly stopped in the first round, buzzed badly, came back second round, won it, and fought to a draw in the end. So he's dangerous. He's got heart, Povetkin, and he's a tough fighter. And what annoys me is the Sky Sports commentary. Johnny Nelson, Adam Smith, Matthew Macklin, all very biased towards Dillian Whyte. We know because Dillian Whyte's a Sky Sports fighter. But rounds 1, 2 and 3 were very, very close. And actually, if the fight was at Povetkin's pace, I remember, and David Haye called this spot on, it didn't look like Dillian Whyte. He looked like he was trying to outbox the boxer. I was worried about that until round 4. And we all kind of breathed a huge sigh of relief, didn't we? Thank goodness the famous left hook's come into play. And he's countered Povetkin, which we thought he'd do. But the first 3 rounds were weird, weren't they? They weren't what we call Dillian Whyte under Mark Tibbs rounds. Under Mark Tibbs, this is what's so good about Tibbs. He got Dillian Whyte to fight his strengths. He got him to, lean on people, use his size, rough them up, elbows in the clinch, hurry them, rush them so they walk into a big counter left hook. That was the smart play. His new trainer, I'm not sure what he said to Dillian Whyte, but it wasn't Dillian Whyte's normal performance. He stood off Povetkin. He looked like he was trying to outbox him. Maybe he was wary of this counter left hook. Maybe he was respectful, but too respectful in my opinion. But like I say, we all thought, okay, round 4 he's got him. We'll forgive the first 3 rounds. It's game over. But what upsets me is Johnny Nelson calling it a lucky punch. It wasn't a lucky punch. He's a former Olympic champion, a former world champion. He's knocked most of his opponents out. He's only ever lost to Joshua and Klitschko, both in their backyards. Povetkin is a quality, tough, durable fighter. And he's been hurt before in fights, like we've mentioned. And he's always come back stronger. And he's got a big knockout rate, especially against the tall, stocky guys like Manuel Charr, like now Dillian Whyte, like David Price. He seems to get underneath them, underneath their reach, and he seems to bang, explode up. So being 6'2" isn't a weakness. Look at Mike Tyson, look at Povetkin, they explode up in their punches and it's 9-9. But what Povetkin did brilliantly, and this is what upsets me about the commentator, especially Johnny Nelson post-fight saying it's a lucky punch. You heard him. You heard Povetkin's corner. Are you okay? Okay. Stop walking into his punches. Stop walking straight in. Adapt. Change. And then you hear post-fight, he'd been working on that uppercut punch for 6 weeks, 7 weeks in sparring. He was looking for that punch. He was punching Dillian Whyte continually to the body, trying to soften him up, trying to slow him down so he could get off on that. He nearly connected with a big uppercut in round 3. He was looking for them kind of shots all night long. It wasn't lucky. It was very calculated and clever. He realised, coming back to his corner after being badly buzzed, that he needed to make adjustments. Rather than walking straight in, he needed to feint. And that's exactly what he did, didn't he? He feinted to look like he was going straight in. He got underneath that right hand, which Dillian Whyte threw, which floored him. The exact same punch floored him in the 4th round. He slipped it this time, got underneath, bang, uppercut. That's all she wrote. It was calculated. It was very clever. And what, again, the Sky Sports commentators didn't allude to is when Povetkin got up, he wasn't on Bambi legs, was he? He was still very much with it. The first knockdown was a flash knockdown. The second knockdown was a harder punch. He definitely got buzzed. But he got up, he had all his senses, and he was still fighting. He was still trying to defend himself and throw punches. He wasn't out on his feet, which means he's still dangerous. The way the Sky Sports Adam Smith, Matthew Macklin commentated, it was like Povetkin was on his last legs. That wasn't the case. He wasn't Joshua in round 7 against Ruiz, beaten up and gassed out. Povetkin was still very much with it. And also, I don't agree with the commentators saying Dillian Whyte looked fresh in the corner. After each round, you could see him slump more and more. Fatigue was catching in on him. And everyone said what wonderful shape he was on. But 18.5 stone, I believe, is still too fleshy and still not right for Dillian Whyte. You know, that's nearly Tyson Fury height, who's a good, 3-4 inches taller and a lot wider, thick set than Dillian Whyte. So, although I'm not saying Dillian Whyte's, not thick set, of course he's not, he's well built. But 8.5 stone for me is too heavy. Just think how good he'd be at 18 stone. You lose 6 pounds, you trim up, you get quicker. He looked slower. He didn't look quick on his feet. It didn't look like he was eluding punches. He'd still have that power at time, but he'd have the speed to elude punches and really do some damage with quicker punches that fighters wouldn't see. So I'd like to see him at 18 stone. I saw Dillian Whyte tire after each round. He needs to work on his cardio. It's been a big weakness against Joseph Parker, who's out on his feet towards the end. Obviously, Anthony Joshua, he gassed out. And I don't want to be too harsh on that. But obviously, the Whack fight, he didn't look very good towards the end. Helenia's fight didn't look very good towards the end. He tires. This is Dillian Whyte's problem, so he needs to work on that stamina. And he was getting tired more and more. And he kind of leaned in, didn't he? A little lazy, little tired with that right hand and got caught for it. So he needs to go back to the drawing board. He needs to work on his fitness. And he also needs to stop leaning in, which makes him susceptible to that uppercut. He's vulnerable to that. He needs to learn how to defend that properly and not lean too much in, fully committed with that right hand. So there's few technical things and there's a lot of cardio. But we should have seen the red flags. I didn't because I just, again, going back to it, it was clear that I thought Povetkin was on his way, on the slide, was on his way out the game, which he is at 40. And I think Dillian Whyte in his prime was going to be too big. And it nearly proved to be that right. But the red flags were there. When you bring in Dave Coldwell a week before the biggest fight of your career at the moment, because let's make no mistake about it, this was about to give Dillian Whyte the WBC #1 ranking, and no way out for Tyson Fury or Dillian Whyte or Deontay Wilder if Dillian Whyte won this fight. So it was a massive fight for him, but he brought David Coldwell in a week before the big fight. That should have been a red flag. That shows he doesn't fully trust or have total confidence in his new trainer. So he needs to sort that out. Is he the right man for Dillian Whyte? Only Dillian Whyte can tell you that. If he's not, he needs to be ruthless and get rid and hire an experienced trainer who's going to, like Mark Tibbs, who's brilliant for Dillian Whyte, who's going to play to his strengths. Dillian Whyte cannot afford to make any more slip-ups. Otherwise, it's night-night forever in his world title shot. And which would be tragic after the 3 years and the epic fights he's had with Derek Chisora, Joseph Parker, Oscar Rivas. But that was under Mark Tibbs. That was a Dillian Whyte who fought to his strengths. The Povetkin fight, I saw a new Dillian Whyte, and it was a Dillian Whyte I didn't like for large parts of it. He's always going to have that beautiful counter left hook, but is he going to have the chin now? How much of that knockout's going to take out of him? That's the big question. He's rushing back. He's looking for a November-December fight. It's too early. He should take his time. I agree with Frank Warren. Again, take your time, recuperate, recover, Come back January, February. Povetkin looks like he's banged to rights to fight you, so he's going nowhere. Recover. Have another 4 or 5 weeks. Make it 2021, early 2021. There's no rush. Fury's tied up with Wilder. Joshua's tied up with Pulev. All these fighters, world champions, are tied up. There's no rush. Take your time. Fully recover and come back, because Dillian Whyte cannot afford to make any more slip-ups.